Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Logical Nonsense Podcast. Today we have Dr. Terry Zachary on. He is a golfer as well as a chiropractic doctor, and he has a very interesting resume. Dr. Terry, how are you doing today?
Doing good, Hunter. Thanks for having me. I enjoy your program. Looking forward to our talk today.
Of course, of course. So let's first start off by introducing who you are and giving a better background and resume than I just gave, as well as your mission.
Yeah, thanks, Hunter. Most of what you said is what I am, and it's kind of how it's kind of how I got there. That might be the interesting stuff. Is like So yeah, I was a sports chiropractor and I was a college golf, a bit of a, I'll say I was a sports junkie growing up, basically. But the game that won out with me ultimately was golf. And I played golf in college. And when I was in practice, actually, I was still competing in a very competitive lower mainland of Vancouver. Vancouver's on the west coast of Canada. It's really the hotbed of where everybody in Canada is playing, throughout the year because the winter's so mild. And I just, there came a point in my life where I said, if I'm going to take a run at trying to play professional golf, I was competitive with the guys with, the big tournaments in my area. I said, I'm going to do it, and sold my practice and took a bit of a chance and just pursued golf. And yeah, that's what kind of brought me to where most of the stuff in my life really opened up as far as career wise, because I didn't make the PGA Tour, which I know that
Yeah.
but if people don't recognize the face or the voice, that's what happened. But I did see dozens and dozens of repetitive grip injuries specifically, and other ones, but repetitive grip was really unbelievable to me, how many wrist and finger and thumb and carpal tunnel and elbow problems I saw. Many people came to me when they found out what my background was. And yeah, what ended up happening is, even though the PJ, the golf career didn't work out, I developed a product called Handmaster Plus, just based on all the necessity. And I used to give out a slew of exercises that, I will be honest, most patients and most of the golfers that I was working with really didn't do them all. And once they got out of pain, especially, they really wouldn't do them all. And I got into some really extreme cases out there, like people that their careers were threatened. And I said, I have to look at something simple. And I basically had a 3 o'clock in the morning aha moment, and said, hey, if I, hollow out a resistance ball of a certain shape, I could put a cord through there and exercise the muscles that close the hand and the muscles that open and spread the hand, and we should be able to get some balance out of that. And it's just worked out really well. Now I'm kind of a hand exercise and grip strength trainer all around the world. It's taken me to not just sports too. We were talking earlier, Hunter. It's taken me into, we work with musicians now, all kinds of different athletes,
Oh, wow.
professional,
Yeah.
amateur. Work with musicians. We work with gamers. We work with ergonomics. It's just repetitive grip is everywhere. And once you see the problem, you can't unsee it. And you start to realize, wow, people don't associate all these problems with repetitive gripping. And I can explain why, and I can help them.
That's awesome. It's cool your transition from athlete into taking what you learned as an athlete into what you learned in school as a chiropractic doctor. I mean, that's a super cool journey. Let's dive into that journey a little further, more specifically in your PGA career, because you mentioned it. You didn't make the PGA, but let's dive in a little further how that process looked like.
Yeah, it was really interesting, and I learned a lot out of it, and you take some risks, right? And you get to be a pretty good player. I won a lot of tournaments in college, and at that point, I had some groups interested in putting some dollars behind me, and train taking me to certain routes of training,
Mhm.
and right away, I wasn't ready for that. I just didn't feel ready for it. I wanted to get in practice. I wanted to kind of get a stable base. So that's why I went back into chiropractic. Like when I graduated, I had the option of, do I want to try to continue with the college golf and take it, potentially professional, or do I want to go back and work on my practice and kind of get some, more of a solid ground. So I did that. And then when I finally realized, hey, I've got to take a run at this golf career while I'm still young.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what I did is I tried out for I mean, I tried out for what the lesser than of the PGA Tour was.
Mhm.
Back then it was the Nike Tour. If anybody
Oh, wow.
remembers way
Okay.
back then, it's a while ago.
It's not the web it used to be web.com tour
It
for a
was
while,
web.com for a while,
and then
which
it was,
it is. It's a kind of a funky name, and I can't believe I'm drawing a
yeah,
blank
it's
on
okay.
it.
We can move on, but
That's okay. I've
I
spoken
can't believe
so
I called
much
it
about
live. That's embarrassing. Wow. I know better. Live is a whole 'nother animal right now. But
yeah,
anyways,
I think I've
another conversation, right?
spoken so much about the Live Tour when we do interviews. It's super embarrassing to me that I can't remember the sponsor of of the feeder tour into the PGA Tour. But regardless, I tried out for that and I actually missed the cut on that. I was pretty green back then. But then I did a lot of mini tours through the states, through Canada as well, and then tried out for a Canadian tour at one point, and just had a really interesting experience where I was almost through Q school, and on the last day of Q school, I shot like a million, an 80. I shot an 83 as a professional golfer, which was rare for me at that time. But it was one of those things where you learn so much about yourself. You learn so much about the game. At the time, I thought it was the worst day of my life. Um, but I also, when I got through that, for a lot of the things I apply in my business, in my life, as a husband, as a dad, as a coach,
Mhm.
that round of golf where I shot 83 when I was really up there, it was almost impossible to miss my card. Going into the last day, I had positioned myself so well. But you really learn a lot about what it takes to hit golf shots under extreme pressure when the prize that you're trying to accomplish in your life means a lot, what it takes to stay in the moment and take care of the work it requires for a result.
Yeah.
Anyways, I learned a lot that day, but that was when my career was starting to kind of wind down, and I'm starting to see that, hey, this might, it's going to take too long. Maybe I'm a little bit further behind.
Yeah.
But I learned a lot about the game of golf. Boy, I think it's the greatest, amongst the best games in the world,
Yeah,
especially,
absolutely. One of the
especially.
toughest too.
Oh, it's tough, and it's, perseverance and
Yep.
continued learning, and the concept that you have to learn to stay in the moment and control your emotions, and you can take that to absolutely any part of your life or any other sport or any other activity. So that was what that's when I went I tried to get onto the PGA Tour. I still know lots of people that I played with that played on the PGA Tour, but also you start to see the numbers, which I knew going in. The numbers are pretty rare of the mini tour
Yeah,
players that actually become successful.
definitely.
But a lot of the players I also know just went in different directions, like me, where
Mhm.
they really had branded their name pretty well, and they
Mhm.
did things in their own area after that. And in a long way of saying it, Hunter, it's, I think, just following your passions and really trying to
Definitely.
chew all the chicken off the bone. You're gonna learn a lot, and if it's something you love to do, why not learn a lot? Even the time where I shot the big number at Q school,
Mhm.
that I felt horrible that day, but the next day I realized, my head didn't fall off. I
Yeah,
learned a lot,
absolutely. Yeah.
and everything, once you go through it, actually everything is really good, and you have a
Yep.
perspective that's well ahead of anybody that didn't try.
Mhm.
And so I'm a real big fan of, in a wise way, finding your passions and just going through it without expectation, almost, to, goal setting I'm good with, don't get me wrong, but just going through and staying present and learning everything about it, and you're going to probably stay in it the rest of your life in some capacity.
Absolutely. Okay, sock is secured, we're good. Okay,
Nice. Nice.
going back to the conversation,
Yes.
I really liked what you said there. I think it's really interesting point that you brought up with how you learned a lot when you basically, for lack of a better term, when you failed. I think that is something you talked about passion, having passion. I think anybody who's passionate and wants to strive to go down their dreams, there is a moment where you're going to fail. And I think
Absolutely.
in that moment, you have to really ask yourself, do I continue pursuing or do I pivot and go towards something that I think I'm better suited in? And it sounds like you pivoted, but it worked out really well for you. if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, no, I think that's a pretty accurate recap. And even Hunter, adding to what you just said there, and that wasn't my only failure by a mile. You know,
No,
there's lots of
definitely not.
tournaments, but you that was the biggest thing where like
Mhm.
I was talking with friends. We were making plans before the tournament was done about how we're going to travel next year. I knew many people that were veterans on the tour that were going to be traveling, and it just was that close to me. And then, kind of lost my mind on a final round with a couple bad breaks. Didn't think that would ever happen to me. I thought even maturity in my game was pretty strong. But there's a process where when you're doing a difficult task, you're gonna go through some difficult changes, generally speaking. Almost
Mhm.
everybody does, and a lot of them. And if you're passionate about it, and it's what you do, you pick yourself up, you clean yourself up, and you find that you're up a step on the rung of understanding what it is that you're doing and what it takes to do it well. So, there was never a regret, and there just came a point too where I saw, I have some other things I'm interested in. I loved being in practice, and when I saw all the repetitive grip injuries, I said, this is a perfect storm for me. I've designed a product where I can help a lot of people. And I don't know. I always wondered why somebody didn't design something exactly like what I did
No
before.
kidding,
It's
right?
it's quite simple, but it's rare that you'll see somebody that's trained in the body and is really passionate about the body, and then
Mhm.
trained in the sport and really active in the sport, where you do have the ears of some higher level professional golfers that will trust you. Um, so I think I was just given the perfect storm, and we developed that business. I didn't really mean to. I had no thoughts of becoming any kind of hand expert, but so many of my experiences had me question, why are we not training the muscles that open the hand and spread the hand, and why are we not training through more of a full range of motion? Why are we neglecting this area? And once I saw those injuries, I knew I was dead on. I knew that we were doing this wrong. We were creating imbalance. And now we've helped literally, we've sold over 1 million units since. I mean, we've been in business for a while, but we've helped so many people. And yes, it's a living, but I love helping people, and being able to explain something quite clearly that otherwise would be tricky, and then providing an easy way to solve the problem.
So it sounds like you sell a lot of products, but from what I understand, do you also work with clients as well, like one on one?
We not so much that way. We work through distributors. We
Okay.
work through brand partners. So we do end up working with, some of their especially some of their high level athletes, or we work with some musicians. And when we're breaking into market, like we've worked with some gamers.
Okay.
It's a whole new thing to
Oh,
me,
definitely.
but
Yeah.
not to the world. To the world now, these gamers are this is high
Yeah.
level stuff that they do, and it was a bit of an eye opener there. But also, we do a lot of work with ergonomics, so we'll work with people that already work in ergonomics, and we more or less just complement what they're already doing, because hand exercise and grip strength training is usually relates to these activities from basically the finger and thumb tips to the elbow. And
Yeah.
that's kind of our little niche. And within that, we work with people that are fitness people, and health and fitness and ergonomic people.
Definitely. Definitely. So, just so I understand, like, your inspiration, were you experiencing yourself some issues with repetitive grip strength, or was it just like you've seen it in other people?
That's a good question. I don't think I've ever been asked that question, and it's a really good question, because I've never had, I've really never had any wrist or any grip issues. When I was younger, I was told, like, I was involved in, basically, I'm Canadian, so I was involved in hockey, was my first love,
Yeah.
and a lot of grip training in hockey. Everybody, they would just give you
Yep.
something to repetitively grip, like a coiled or a spring-loaded item or a racquetball or something. And I was so young at that point. It was before I went to chiropractic school, that I didn't know any. I bought that just like anybody else did, that it's the proper exercise, because
Yeah.
as I did it, I did get stronger.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
but then when I started studying the body, and I was an anatomy junkie. I loved the
Yeah.
area. It was such a challenge. Like, there's basically 27 muscles to your grip. And when I remember being in dissection lab. We were in a dissection lab. You do it basically or during your first year at school. And I remember going like, look at all these muscles on the back of
Yeah.
they go on the back of the hand that extend and spread and even position the wrist in different areas. And I'm saying, how in the world have we ever made grip where you take it and you just take something and squeeze it? So I'd questioned it for a long time. I also saw that, as a chiropractor, of course, I'm just naturally really study posture a lot.
Yeah.
And one of the most common things we see in the office, we see poor posture. We're always work with our hands in front of us. So we always see people kind of hunched forward in a
Hunch
letter
over,
C,
yeah.
which is really difficult in the discs, really difficult in the ribs, really poor with holding your neck, and it accentuates imbalance. So if I've got good posture, even with little bit of imbalance, and I've got good posture, that takes a lot of the imbalance away in general. When I
Yeah.
slump, any little imbalance, you just slump right off your vertical center, and it's a real problem. So we would always, as chiropractors, we would question, hey, if you're doing something, your activities in front of you, and you have a tendency to shorten all your flexor side, like your hip flexors and your pecs and some of your internal rotators. Well, what you want to do is the opposite. As you leave your day, you got to make sure you're retraining and working with your extensors and bringing yourself back onto balance. Well, the same thing applies with your hands. Is if we're doing this all day, why in the world am I going to want to take something and do this more? Why do I want to shorten these imbalanced areas more?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it was just the combination led me to really question. And then I had one particularly bad, one of the players that I was traveling with. I didn't have any children when I was playing. I was younger, and one of the fellows I was traveling with had two wife and two kids at home, and he had a tennis elbow so bad he couldn't even lift
Oh,
the cup.
wow.
So that's when I said, I got to help these people, and I got to give something that's way more convenient and way more easy to explain, so that people don't get to this point in their life, and then so that I can actually help this gentleman. And so rough prototype, that was where I said I kind of figured out something in the middle of the night and put together a rough prototype. And next thing you know, he's doing these exercises that we developed, and he's doing dynamite, and he had a good golf career after that. And it just things like that happen in your life, and you just go like, wow, I could do this, and I can help many people with this, and nobody understands it. No, even fitness people we talk to, they were giving somebody a ball and squeezing, and we're going like, we got to stop this. So
Yeah.
yeah, we changed. We're still changing, but we've changed a lot of minds in the world in a lot of activities that are grip activities, but we continue to talk to more and more people and change their minds as well.
Did you know originally, like, it would be so inclusive to so many different worlds? Because it sounds like at first, like, it was really
Oh,
focused on golf. Like, did you
yep.
really think about the amount of worlds you would touch with this product?
No, Hunter, when I first did this, I will tell you, I know exactly what the point was. The point was to train golfers. I didn't even think
Yeah.
about baseball players or maybe I've thought about tennis players because
Yeah.
similar crowds,
Yeah.
similar mechanics. But I was a hockey player. Hockey didn't even hit me. Lacrosse didn't hit me. A
Yeah.
lot of stuff that we talked about. But um, when I did not make it on, when my career kind of went, I kind of packed in the clubs, and when I went back into practice, that's all we had is like a medium strength. I didn't need a real firm strength. We figured out how to make a medium strength product. And actually, there was a lady in practice that had had a stroke earlier that was in my practice, and she
Yeah.
also had arthritis. And I gave her one of these prototypes that were all mediums, right? Because I was training my
Yeah.
athletes. And they were like a medium, what is now a medium strength. It was the only strength back then. And I said, we've got to talk to the people. We had like people that were manufacturing them for us and say, how do we do a lighter version? Like it seemed like the most impossible thing to me. And well, these guys, the manufacturers almost laughed at me. They said, well, we just do a different formula, and so that led to a softer one. And then we eventually made a firmer one because we had a request for it. But once we started to do that, you started to open up and see that well, then we all of a sudden, like in the practice, started seeing a lot of musicians, and
Yeah.
people got to know that we do repetitive grip injuries. And then, like you said, things came out of nowhere. We started to do a lot of like stroke rehab and arthritis,
Oh,
and
okay. Yeah.
uh, after even we started to do a lot of work with post surgery and stuff like that, so people
Okay.
can rehab properly and get blood flow and heal quicker and heal in balance. They just kept on over and over, and we're still almost torn apart by all the different people we're trying to serve. Like we get requests from all different markets.
Well, that's super cool, seeing you expand like that, especially because it sounded like you almost had a niche when you initially launched it, and it sounds like you're a person that wants to help all people, not just golfers. So it's cool that you've been able to reach such a wide audience. Are there certain sports or even like I know you talked about music or gaming? Is there something that you've seen is the like worst for your hands? I guess.
Yeah, boy, there is. Yeah, I'll try to pick one because so what we did also, Hunter, when I started to like, I wanted to test this. I wanted to make sure what I was talking about was right, and
Working, yeah.
yeah, so we did some tests and we used this. They're just simple electrodes, and there's called a surface EMG machine, and basically what it'll do is it'll be able to read the intensity of a muscle contraction. So we were putting the two sets of electrodes on. One are the electrodes that on the base, the main muscle belly that squeezes the hand, and the main muscle belly that open and spreads the hand. And we would go through all these different activities. And
Mhm.
that's when I really knew that holy mackerel, are we doing this wrong? Uh,
Yeah.
we started seeing that every time I took something and squeezed it, that the extensor muscles, the muscles on the back of the hand, wrist, forearm, and elbow, they would contract just as hard as the muscles that close it. So I knew we had to train both. So when I did that, we really had an objective way to look at muscle contraction. And when you ask me the question of, well, which which one's the worst, and I don't want to, I don't want to make something, scare somebody, but I will tell you, I think the worst one that we saw, um, like I would say the worst one we saw was an ergonomic one. We saw guitar players were surprisingly high signals. Maybe not that surprising, but more than what I thought there might be. So we do a lot of work with guitar players. But the biggest one we see is in ergonomics with dental hygienists.
Oh, wow.
It might it might surprise people, but some of the factors. I go offhand on some of the factors. It is usually something where it's a smaller tool, like so people that knit and stuff like that. They really the muscles, the flexor muscles really have to contract a lot to hold a knitting needle. And dental hygienists have smaller tools. Sometimes they have tools that are vibrating when they're working with them. And the other thing is they have to have their palms down. When your palms down, you're really holding against gravity, and it makes your extensor muscles on the back of your elbow have to work hard. If you
Hmm.
ever took something and you took a brick and you held it palm up and you said, well,
Yeah.
what does a brick feel like? Oh, it's not bad. It's a brick, but whatever.
Yeah,
But
but
you
if
hold
you
the brick
flip
palm
it.
down, you start to see that all of a sudden that brick, you hold that for a long time, and it not only does it get heavy, but your stabilizer muscles that support the grip are going crazy. It's just like a piano player, or a organ player, or somebody on a keyboard. When you're palm down, yes, you're striking keys on a computer or on a keyboard, or sorry, on a piano, whatever, but you're also holding the fingers up against gravity the whole time. So there's a lot of muscles contracting subtly the whole time. Anyways, the other factor with dental hygienists is that they work they work long times without breaks.
Mhm.
So when we saw I'd say that's one that really stuck out. I mean, golfers, you're still seeing golf as one of the worst ones because you contract so much, especially with with professional golfers or with
Mhm.
high level amateurs. They practice and they play so
Yeah.
much, muscles get so short, and they may be in a situation where they're in deep rough. I know you said, Hunter, you played some golf in your days as well,
Yep.
but so say, somebody hits it into deep rough. Well, now you actually have to really hold the club strong and get it through the deep rough and keep the club face from turning
Yep.
over from the
Yep.
grass. So that can be really difficult on elbows when you're doing that, and on wrists. Um, I would say the same as, if you a lot of golfers will get injured when they hit a root or something like that. So
Yeah.
golf
Yeah.
is golf because there's so much repetitive gripping, and then there's so much, especially if you trap your iron shots a little bit, it can be really tough. But the worst situation that we see, I would say, and it's not to scare all the dental hygienists out there.
Yeah.
It's just that it's a great occupation. They've worked hard to get their degrees and stuff like that. So they really got to look at, and they all know their equipment, but they don't know this equipment maybe as much as they should. If
Yeah.
they can just get we make an exercise where it's really easy to offset those imbalances,
Definitely.
maintain the muscular balance in your hands, wrists, and elbows and carpal tunnels over the years, and you prevent that. And you also stimulate blood flow if you exercise through full range of motion. But
Yep.
if a dental hygienist was to say, like, okay, well, I'm going to do this for a career, and I'm going to take some spring loaded thing or a coiled gripper and squeeze it, I can tell you they're going to be in trouble, because it's
Yeah.
just too much repetitive gripping in those flexor muscles. So you have 9 muscles that close your hand, or basically in the front of your fingers, thumb, carpal tunnel, forearm, and wrist. Those things shorten, the fingers shorten, the thumb shorten, the carpal tunnel shuts down, and the elbow shortens. And if you don't do something to offset that, there's it's just mechanics, right? It's something's going to go
Yeah.
wrong over time.
Just so I understand you clearly, don't take this interview as saying you shouldn't want to go and do your dreams, whether it's dental hygienist,
Yep,
whether it's golfing, whatever. You
absolutely.
just need to take the steps to offset, not
Yeah.
damage isn't the right word, but kind of, I don't know what other
No,
word to use, I
no,
guess.
Hunter, I remember I've been around this for a long time. I would say
Yeah.
the word to use is either imbalance, if you're
Yeah.
trying to prevent the imbalance, or prevent instability, because
Yeah.
this is basically a kinetic muscle chain. Just
Mhm.
like, when your fingers contract to close, and your extensor muscles contract to support your fingers, and everything else, your wrist muscles and your forearm muscles contract to hold everything in place. The problem is, over time, you're shutting that down. So I know you've got a pretty good sense of humor. When I talk to
Yeah.
anybody about grip, I say, if you want to keep your grip muscles strong, healthy, and in balance, you got two
Mhm.
choices. You either quit what you do, so you quit being a dental hygienist,
Yeah.
or you realize that you have to find a solution to offset the imbalance during your day.
Yeah.
And it's not, that's just saying the same as posture. You should be stretching and
Yeah.
strengthening to maintain your posture if you're a dental hygienist or a piano player or a gamer.
Yep.
And those same things I say. You have gamers that make completely ridiculous amounts of money nowadays. I guess esport athletes is what they would be classified as. To ask somebody like that to quit what they're doing is crazy, but that's the option. You either quit what you're doing if you don't want imbalance, or you figure out a way to offset that imbalance through proper exercise, and that's what we help with.
Absolutely. That's it's interesting that you've had that talk so many times with people.
Over
Like, it sounds like
over and
you've
over.
had this conversation of, "Well, I don't I don't wanna, like, do this, like, I don't know how to fix it." And so, I don't know, it's interesting to me that you've had to have that conversation so many times, because it's like, you have a pretty simple solution, at least from what I've seen, and
Yep.
sounds like that not that many people are instantly wanting to use it.
Well, no, and I'll then the conversation always goes into a little bit of fear. If you want, now we don't have to. I can show you how you do it. I've got one of the products right here.
Yeah,
It's up. I'll show you, even so it looks like this, just to see. It's not tricky. It looks like a little toy. Now
yeah,
this is the soft one. So people say, well, oh, this is going to get complicated, or what am I going to do? I'm going to be in trouble. And then what we have them do is they'll put this on the thumb, they put this on the fingers. And in the old days, it was a problem. Like when I first knew that we had a problem with this, Hunter, I would show them 6 or 7 exercises, and they
mhm,
would have a hard time keeping up. And then it's like, how are we going to help these people to do this all the time and like have a wellness program when it's so complicated. But now here's what I do. I have them. I don't know if you can see this. Okay.
Yeah.
I have them. They're going to squeeze against a ball. They're going to open and spread against a cord. If you can see that. Okay. I'll put it over
Oh, wow.
here. They're
Yeah,
going
no,
to
that is
close.
easy.
Right. So
Yeah.
now I get 9 muscles that close the hand. I open and spread. I've got the 9 muscles that open and spread the hand. All I tell the patient or the athlete or the musician or the worker is close your hand, open and spread. That
Yeah.
keeps the 18 muscles healthy. And then
Yeah.
if they are really grip dependent, I do have them go squeeze, open and spread. And then I have them do a figure 8 with their hand open. So they
Yep.
squeeze, extend. That gets the 9 closing muscles through a full range of motion. The 9 opening and spreading muscles go through a full range of motion. And then the 9 muscles that control the position of the wrist will go through their full range of motion. So you just have them to do that. That's called the figure 8 exercise. They would do that. So for ergonomics, like a dental hygienist might do that for 30 seconds to a minute, a couple times
Oh,
a day.
wow.
And
Yeah.
they're going to offset that. So now when we say, hey, you got to quit, and they don't realize I'm joking. I don't want them to
Yeah.
quit.
Yeah.
I'm just
Yeah.
realizing you will go into imbalance if you're repetitive gripping.
Yeah.
This is mechanics. Nature's not going to work any different for you than it does for everybody else I've seen.
Yeah.
But if you think you can do this figure 8 exercise for 1 minute a day and save your career 1 or 2 minutes a day, why not do that? And that's
Yeah.
what I've said to thousands of
Yeah.
thousands,
Yeah. Would you
so.
say would you say a majority of people need some sort of exercise like this?
Oh, absolutely. The other thing, we didn't talk about this when we prepped as well, Hunter, is that so I started on 2 levels. The first level you identified, I'm looking for athletes. I'm saying I'm gonna
Yep.
help people for athletes, and specifically, I was golf and tennis to begin with.
Yep.
We got into hockey soon after when I went back to Canada.
Yeah.
Uh, but then it became like, wow, we can do this for so many other grip activities, but also health conditions. But
Mhm.
then there was a study I was sent. Then you get, that's the other thing about pursuing your passions is once you get active in it and you start to participate in conversations that advance the knowledge within that passion, which would end up being hand exercise and grip. Everybody comes out of the woodwork and somebody says, hey, have you ever heard of this guy and that guy? And there was a fellow that I'd heard about who worked with improving lymph drainage, was helping a lot of people
Hmm.
get better. And I had got this anecdotal feedback for years that people would use this Handmaster Plus of ours. They would use it and they say, yeah, my carpal tunnel feels better, but it's weird. I'm sleeping better. I feel better in general.
Yeah.
And I kind of thought, well, you're taking a problem away. That's probably just better. But what I see now, and if any of your audience looks up hand exercise and life longevity, there's about 6 big studies that say grip strength is directly correlated with life longevity.
Hmm.
So
Interesting.
you start to see that why haven't we been exercising these 27
Yeah.
muscles because once I exercise something through a full range of motion, I'm going to stimulate peripheral blood flow as well. So that means I'm going to get nutrients and oxygen out to my peripheral, to my fingers and thumbs and all the carpal tunnel and all these structures out here. But I'm also going to stimulate lymph drainage away. And then my body becomes more efficient. The circulatory system of my body becomes more efficient when I exercise the extremities. It's like a nice rinse out, wash out, and it stimulates lymph flow, which is a really big deal as far as getting rid of toxins and waste products from your body. And so when you say, do you think everybody, again, this is my business. I understand if everybody in the
Yeah.
world
Of
buy
course, you're gonna promote it. Yeah.
was to purchase one, that wouldn't hurt my feelings.
Yeah.
But we're also saying, no, we want people to think about it. The hand, wrist, forearm has been left for dead. It hasn't been, especially the fingers. I mean, these
Yeah.
18 muscles, people aren't taking them through full range of motion.
Something
And
we use every day too.
yeah,
Yeah.
and it's so simple if you do. Not only are you going to strengthen your performance in any grip activity, but
Mhm.
you're going to get healthier. There's no negative to it. And but there is a negative to not doing it. So
Yeah.
it's one of these things where we go on a level. Let's just help athletes. Well, let's just help other people. Well, let's just help some repair. Holy mackerel! Let's help general health. And
Yeah.
so it's just like a deeper and deeper rabbit hole. And I think we've gone through most of the rabbit hole now, but it's fun.
That's awesome. How long has this been out? Just curiosity.
This has been out, oh, in some version. We had a different version of it for the first about 4, this has been out since about 2000. But when we
Okay.
started, and you know how it goes as well, Hunter,
Yep.
in 2000, like, nobody heard it. Most people haven't heard about it yet
Yeah.
today. We certainly in the markets that people are familiar with us, it's well known.
Yeah.
But if you ask anybody in the street and you said, "Have you ever seen this thing that, help
Yeah.
you put it on your hand, you close it, and you open and spread?" 95% of the people will still look at you and say, like, "What are you talking about?"
Yeah.
So,
What is that? Yeah.
I'll never be bored the rest of my life is basically what's gonna happen, you know?
I like that. Still pursuing every day.
Oh,
Love it.
absolutely, and there's but the thing is that you are helping people perform. I really like that the most, but then you're helping, like, as long as people do it, the only way it doesn't work is if people don't do it,
Yeah.
and, it's so simple to do, and if you can't remember to close and open your hand, you might have bigger issues than grip fitness.
Yeah, definitely. It sounds like honestly the biggest challenge would just be like trying to fit it into routine of people because I think, you know, you can buy a
That's
product, but if you don't use it, it's not useful. So just getting it into your routine every day and like
Yep,
making sure that it's just, like brushing your teeth every night, I think is probably, if I'm not mistaken, probably the biggest challenge in
yep.
getting people to use it.
But even to add on to your point there, Hunter, is that I think that's one of the things in physical fitness in general.
Yeah, true.
I've seen it. We've got 3 kids. I've got this business. I coach still.
Mhm.
You're just busy, and I think that's one of the things about fitness is how do we look at our lifestyles, and if we make sure we're going to keep in good fitness habits, we have to make everything easy and accessible. And that's like, again, I'll talk about this product is that when used to tell people about when I was on tour, remember I was trying to work on my game as well.
Yeah.
And previous to going on tour, when I still had all these theories of hand exercise, but I had elastic bands laying around. I had different spring-loaded stuff laying around. I had
Yep.
eggs laying around. I had everything, putty, and it was so complicated that there's no way people would do, even if I said hand exercise is the greatest thing for your health in the world. It's
Yeah.
just so tricky to do it all properly. And that's why close open. And if anybody's kind of like, if you're looking to do things with your health, even exercising the rest of your body, you have to have things prepared. I know even on our little elliptical machine that we have here, I have a pair of running shoes there and socks and shorts, and just so that it's easy whenever I can go, I
Yep.
don't have to make it hard
You
in
don't
my
have to make
mind.
it a big deal. Yeah, it's not a
Let's go.
mental block.
And
Yeah.
this thing, yeah, you can habit stack. You can be watching a video or, watching a podcast and put it on, or
Yep.
watching TV, whatever you have, and you can habit stack. It's really easy to use.
Absolutely. So going through process of PGA Tour into the product, into your practice, everything, what advice would you give to your younger self?
Ah, we've already talked about it. Probably the advice I would give is, I would say just recognize that I'm me, Terry. I'm built for certain. I'm given certain skills and blessings in my life, by God given or nature or whatever, however you want to look at that. Hunter, you'd be the same. Uh,
Mhm.
Whoever's neighbor down the street at your place would be the same. I think you have to look and really really follow your passions, follow something that excites you. As long as you know that it helps other people. Like if it's a helpful, uh, if it's a helpful concept that you're interested in, um, get really good at it. And you get up in the morning and you're excited to get up and do whatever you want to do. And then you're never bored because you're doing it in service for other people. I find that when we think, oh, I just want to do what's really comfortable to me, like
Yeah.
I want to
Pushing
just sit
yourself
here and
outside
watch,
your comfortable zone.
I want
Yeah.
to watch Netflix and it just feels comfortable and I eat chips and this and that. Well, that doesn't, you're not of service to other people. And even when I was going through this thing and I'm going, how in the world am I going to figure out how to get people to listen to me, do an exercise when I'm giving them 6 or 7 different exercises? It wasn't comfortable. And even playing golf, nothing. I loved it. But, you get in front of people and you're hitting golf shots under pressure and pretty soon it's not comfortable, but you see that when you get there, your head doesn't fall off or anything like that. And you learn more and more and more as you go. And especially once you're thinking, how am I going to help other people and give them a really be really good at helping other people, you're never bored. And I just find when we don't look at our passions and things that we could do to be helpful to our world,
Shy away from it.
life doesn't have much purpose and there's no excitement. And
Yeah.
so, anyways, my advice to my younger self is almost what I did. It probably took me longer to do, knowing like I would have done it quicker. I would have said, you're passionate about this. Go for it. Look into it. Study. Chew all the chicken off the bone in your subject. Like get
Yep.
real good, and it's fun. And yeah, you're going to go through some crap. The higher level you get at
Mhm.
everything. I took seminars from a guy who said the more attention you get, the more pies in your face you're going to get. But you're going to get better and better and better at what you do. So we're gonna do something. May as well do something that you're passionate about. And I always followed passions. And maybe when I was younger, it took me a little while to go like, geez, should I really be doing this? Am I really qualified to do this and do that? And once you just go, enough, I'm going into it. I'm going to plow into it. I'm going to learn this stuff. You do.
Yeah.
And then
Absolutely.
life's fun. Life's fun.
Yep. Absolutely. Because you have a purpose. You have something to
Yeah.
look forward to every day. Absolutely. I love that. What are some of the biggest challenges you went through as a golfer, and what are some of the biggest challenges you have now as, I guess, a businessman?
Oh boy, as a golfer, my biggest challenge is the biggest challenge I think always is no, I was a pretty good player when I was younger. I was pretty successful. I worked hard. I was a hard worker, so a lot of the stuff, and I liked it, so a lot of stuff came natural. The stuff that came harder is when you get to be like, all of a sudden you're a 5 handicap, and then you're a 2, then you're a scratch, then you get in the pluses, and then you're just so used to improving, then the little details, it starts to become a lot of the mental stuff and a lot of
Meticulous.
real detailed stuff. And then it becomes that you have to make sure your fitness is good and your balance is good and your mindset. Then becomes more, you have to, make sure all the holes in the boat are plugged, because eventually the guys you play against they're ridiculously good and they're there.
Mhm.
So I think that's the hardest thing, but it's also, again, in my opinion, I mean, if I had 10 more years to go, I was kind of going like, geez, I better watch burning my whole time on the tour and not really having a family and all that stuff. But no, I think that was my biggest challenge, I think there, but it was a challenge I loved. And I like I say to your question before, I wish I'd have done it earlier.
Yeah.
But that's the way it worked out, right? I advise a lot of young kids that don't piddle around. You like doing this, learn, listen, learn, commit to it.
Yep.
So, in business wise, I was never a real business guy.
Yeah.
I'm an idea guy. I had a partner that I brought on in about 2000. His name was Tom Sprague, and he was a real brilliant business guy. So he gave the business direction, and that helped me a lot. And I think now uh, it's about probably keeping balance and keeping consistent. In business, I think that's one of the things is that, not going, now that I'm a husband and a father and I still coach and there's you can
Yeah.
get pulled a lot of different directions. I think you have to stay really, somehow stay very systematic. And the biggest problem that I will have is that probably have a hard time asking for help. I try to do it all, and now in my business, we're looking to place some people. I'm better at it, but I think making sure that you surround yourself with experts is always a great thing.
Yep.
And I'm starting to get a little better at that.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. The reason I wanted to ask about the business part is because, like, I think we oftentimes don't even think about that question. Like, we just think, "Oh, they've always been successful since day one," and it's like, no, there was challenges there too.
No.
So it's interesting to hear you say, like, "I wasn't really a businessman, I just kinda had ideas, and I had to kind of rely not rely, but, kinda learn from others on how to get
Mhm.
this thing going."
Hey, Hunter, as you asked that question, I think about it a little bit more. There's one more thing I'd probably like to say that
Yeah.
I'm starting to do well, but it took me a long time, is that, well, not a long time. We work with, it's going along a little bit more on, look for the experts in the fields. Because, like I say, my partner Tom used to say the biggest pro of this business with Handmaster is that there's a lot of markets. There's endless markets
Yep.
for repetitive gripping. The biggest con about this business is that there's endless markets for repetitive gripping. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Is that,
yeah.
yes, they're all, but it can get you scattered so quickly. So I think one of the things that we've really done well is we've identified leaders in the markets that we're in.
Okay.
And now
Yeah.
we contact leaders, and we looked for really good distributors for the therapy market, for example. We have a we have a brand partner called Metolius that's just in climbing, Metolius Climbing. They're fantastic. And we're in conversation with a few other bigger brands that already have their business going. They already know what they're doing. They have a good customer base. And those are the people that we're starting to really focus on, um, and to use our time wisely. We know we can help a lot of people, but it doesn't help if I'm scattered around. When we go to some of these bigger brands, they already have reach and they already have distribution. So that's what we're focusing a lot more. And we're pretty far along with a couple more new brands that I can't say until I know that
Yeah.
are going to work with them.
Yep. That's awesome. No, it's cool that you guys have kind of leaned on those brands to
Yep.
help, endorse what you guys are doing because, like you said, I think there's something to be said about customers' perception and
Yep.
who's telling them the information, right? Like, if you were telling them the information and you're talking to gamers, they're like, "Who the hell are you?" You
Yeah.
know? Like, I think it definitely does speaks volumes on who's telling them that type of information on who works.
No.
So, definitely very smart business move on that part.
We call it, like, when I refer to it, and again, I'm not the king of this thing. I just think,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
to me, it's like, I call it a third party endorsement. Like, you've
Yeah.
got a third party endorsement from somebody that's a very trusted brand. Um, and the other thing too about that too, Hunter, is keep in mind, to get in with those brands, they're not they're not opening their brand door up, so to speak, to anybody. Like, you've got to be able to prove yourself. And if you can't prove yourself and your product is actually a mediocre, or your exercise or whatever you're bringing to their table, they're not just going to open up the door and say,
Yeah,
"Yeah, let's give it a
exactly.
shot."
Two-way street, yep.
Yeah, you have it's one of those things where you have to chew the chicken off the bone. You have to do a good job
Yeah,
with what you are doing and learn. And sometimes we made prototypes where the first couple were horrible, and we saw them do, certain things we didn't like. So we had to kind of, you know, redesign it a whole bunch of times. It's not for the meek of heart to do this type of thing. But again, when if I can get this right, I can help just tons of people. And I could just it's a blast. I used to get into the plane. I went to school near Chicago, in a place called Palmer College in Davenport, Iowa. But I would fly into Chicago, and we just seemed like you're flying over houses for like a half an hour.
yeah,
And I would say, wouldn't that be neat if I could figure out something to, get to be an expert and learn something that could help one out of 100 of these people of this house. It's just such a big world out there. And,
yeah.
it's like, when you start to think that way, it's amazing how things come together.
That's awesome. That's super, super cool. Okay, so let's get some more fun questions here. We've been pretty serious on this podcast and reasonably so, but who's your favorite golfer right now
Ooh.
on
Holy
the
mackerel.
tour? Doesn't matter which tour.
Who is my favorite golfer right now? You know, that is such a good question. It's funny because, I would say I've got two guys that I love their golf swings. I've
Okay.
got, Justin Thomas, if you
Okay.
follow him
Yep.
at all. I just love his golf swing. And there's a Canadian that I really like, and I don't even know him. Like, he was kind of came up. I've got buddies that know him, but Adam
Yep.
Hadwin. Adam just
Okay.
played really well at uh, at the tournament in LA.
Yep.
I think he finished fourth, is what I think I remember seeing. But there's certain things I like in a golf swing. I like really good posture. It's the chiropractor in me showing
Yeah,
up,
yeah, yeah.
but it just adds to your stability, and you can turn so well with good posture.
Yep.
So I like those two specifically, and I love the way they set their wrist at the top of the swing. If you look at
Yep.
those two, it looks like nothing can go wrong, and
Smooth. Yep.
it's a hard thing to do. You know, that transition in golf is everything. So good posture, good transition. I mean, I'm a Tiger fan too.
Okay.
I know Tiger's went through a lot of things in his life, and I can't imagine being whatever that famous, that successful, that young,
Yeah.
and what that would do to you. But mechanically, um, I mean, he again a great posture
Stud.
swing.
Yeah.
And one thing, the other thing that I guess I'm promoting a little bit. We make one of the side businesses we do is we do a short putt mastery course. And I won't even go into that too much. It's on our website if you give that out at the end. But
Yep.
what Tiger Woods was one of the guys that everybody talks about all the stuff Tiger does, and I thought he was one of the best clutch putters that I have ever seen. And I don't think he gets enough credit for that.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that kept me really competitive in golf is I was a really good short putter.
Yeah.
And I worked on it really hard. I studied it really hard, and that's what we based the course on, is like show all the details. And I found that when I was playing with people, even advanced and even professional golfers, they didn't know some of the science about how the ball goes in the hole, and how you can take a lot of stress off yourself just by looking at a little bit of the math. It's really, you don't have to make perfect putts to make short putts. But I won't get into that.
Yeah.
The reason that one of the things I learned was from Tiger's interview about Tiger at one point. He said that he had been speaking with Ben Crenshaw about putting, and Crenshaw said something to the fact that, oh, you barely hold the putter in your hand, just the softest. And Tiger, who was, he had at least a dozen majors at that point, I think.
Yeah.
Tiger said, I actually hold it really firm in my hand. Like, I think he said he was like a 5 or a 6 out of 10 grip pressure.
Yeah.
And I was always a grip pressure, like we talk about it amongst people. I always believed doesn't matter your grip pressure as long as your grip pressure doesn't change through your stroke.
Yeah.
And when I heard Tiger say that he was more of a firm grip pressure, it was the first time I'd ever heard it from a real good player.
Yep.
And then, but that's what I believe. But anyways, Tiger would be my guy in the long term. Of course, I was also a Nicklaus fan, but right now,
Yeah.
Adam Hadwin, Justin Thomas, I can watch those guys swing all day.
Love it. Love the answer. Do you still golf?
I do, not as much as I would like to,
Yeah.
just because we're busy with
Busy man.
business, and I've
Yep.
got a golf course just beside my house, but, in Canada here, they've been putting a pipeline through it, so it's been closed for a couple of years. I do have a 13-year-old son who's really showing interest, so I know there's a light at the
Oh,
end of the
awesome.
tunnel. We're gonna be out there, and he's pretty good golf swing, so, I'm looking forward to that role, but I love playing. I love, the game is I just love the game. It's
Yep.
fantastic. I talk about hand exercise being this endless rabbit hole. I know if you've played golf, you never get it all figured out, but it gives you hints it gives you hints every round, and you got to pay attention and enjoy it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, so I will let you plug everything where everyone can find you. Yeah.
Yeah, so our main site, Hunter, if people want to go have a look, is doczac.com. It's DOCZAC.com. And there's links to everything we've talked about. We also have a stretching program that I think can help a lot of people. It's for flexibility and balance and blood flow, same thing. If anybody ever has questions, I don't mind at all spending time on questions. They can just contact me at info@doczac.com.
All right. And where can they find your socials?
Socials, holy mackerel. Socials is usually at Handmaster Plus. That's where I
At
am.
Handmaster
You can
Plus. Okay.
check either at Handmaster Plus or at DocZac,
Okay.
and they'll find me. We're all over, and it's a great way to communicate too, and just to be able to give people like hints and tips of all these things that we're talking about. It's a lot of fun.
Definitely. Well, it's been a pleasure having you on this podcast. I've learned a lot about hand grip strength. I've learned a lot about golf and that journey. You have an amazing story. I feel very inspired right now. So
All
appreciate
right.
you coming on. And yeah, any last words?
No, I just I think I really love the questions you ask. I really like the question about following your passions. It's just always it's been scarier than hell for me
Yeah.
several times, right? But when you get through it and you realize, oh, I'm okay, everything's okay. In fact, you're really good. You
Yep.
just you got to go through these things to learn more about these things. And at the highest level, everything's a challenge. So I think I like that question the most. But you learn about the body, you learn about golf, you learn about whatever your pursuit is. Generally speaking, it's an endless rabbit hole, and the further you get, the more you're going to enjoy it if it's your passion.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate it. I hope you have a great night, sir. And yeah, thanks for coming on.
All right. Well, Hunter, thanks for having me, and maybe you got to get those golf clubs back out yourself one of these days.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.